Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Community Cafe. My name is Mark Roberts. I'm coming to you live from the Affinity Asset Management Training Center. My partners, Chris Toman with First Option Bank and Glenn Stockton of Stockton & Stern Law Firm, are not able to be here today. They got the week off. Just a quick little preview, the next 2 weeks on the coronavirus and everything that's kind of related to coronavirus right now. Next week, Chris Toman will be on to talk about how is the banking world, mortgage world, refinancing, how is that industry being affected by the coronavirus? In 2 weeks, I'm going to come back on myself and I'm going to be interviewing a rock star here in the Kansas City area, Jolynn Tarantino with Reese & Nichols, and she's going to talk to us about how the Kansas City real estate market is doing. We'll talk about buyer's market, seller's market, how is the coronavirus in general affecting the real estate market in Kansas City. So that's what's coming up in the next 2 weeks. Today, we're going to be talking about Social Security. I'm going to give you a version of what I would normally do in about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes when I do a public presentation on Social Security. I'm going to try to do that in about 30 minutes or less. So let's jump right into this. All right, so Social Security, something to know about this. If you go out and you Google Social Security calculators, you're going to find all kinds of calculators that are out there for free. I'm going to tell you that I've never come across one nearly as good as this one. This one that you're seeing on your screen is outstanding. There are 567 Social Security strategies. That's right, 567 options or strategies, whatever you want to call them. It's not just, do I start at 62 or 63 or 66 or 70? You got those variables. You got spouse options that you can ping pong off of to choose yourself or choose a spouse, have a spouse choose them, have the spouse choose off of you. Lots of variables, and then the different timing of those variables. What it boils down to Social Security is, what option should I select and when should I select it to get the most amount of money out of Social Security in your lifetime? Your goal is not to get the biggest check. Your goal is to get the most amount of money out of Social Security in your lifetime. This is the only software I've ever come across that takes into account all 567 strategies. If you are single, you're not married, and you have never been married, then most of those calculators that you can find on the internet are out there for free, are good for you. But if you are married or you have ever been married, then you need to use this because this is the only one that takes care of all of it. So let me give you just a quick sample of what you're looking at here. Get my computer screen here to work. All right. Sorry, my screen's not working here. Sorry about that, folks. I got something blocking my screen with my controls and I can't get to my pens. Now I got access to my pens. Yay. All right.
Okay. So here.
There we go. I think that's working. Give me most of my pens. All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I have things popping up on my screen. People are trying to pop in to watch this live. Like I say, we're on Facebook Live and we are on Zoom.com Live. So a lot of people popping in to watch this. Obviously, a very popular topic here today. And I got things that are blocking my buttons. I can't control it. So kind of give you an example here. Here we're going to look at wife's, get my pen to work here. We got wife's history, we got husband's history on Social Security. And down here at the bottom, we're looking at if they both started Social Security at 62, if they both started Social Security at full retirement age, if they both started at age 70, or they did some kind of a hybrid approach. What it boils down to is what is going to get you the most amount of money? 1,065, 1,229, 1,274, 1,317. When you start matters. So we're looking at, okay, the husband, he's probably going to start his Social Security at 70. The wife, she's going to start hers at 66 and then switch at her age of 69 when her husband turns 70 to switch over to a spouse option. There's a ping pong effect here where she's bouncing off of one and then going to another that you can do with Social Security. Start with one scenario, one option, move it to another option later. And you can do that with this software to see this. A lot of things to know about Social Security, so we're going to get into this. Now on Social Security, our taxes on Social Security is taxed one of three ways. If our income is right here and below our entire Social Security check is tax-free. Means no taxes on our Social Security paycheck. But if our income is from here to here, that range to this range, half of our Social Security is taxed, meaning 50% is taxed, 50% is tax-free. Well, how much tax do I pay on that 50%? Well, that depends on the rest of your income. The rest of your income sources, part-time job, full-time job, spouse's job, investment income, rental properties, pension, Social Security, all of these income sources determines where your tax bracket is. 50% of your Social Security will be taxed at that tax bracket, meaning 50% will still be tax-free. If your income is from here and above, now 85% of your Social Security gets taxed. At whatever your tax bracket is, 85% is taxed, meaning 15% of your Social Security is always going to be tax-free. Now, this is a key here because we have a lot of folks in retirement time who call us up and want money out of their portfolio, not just for monthly income, they're used to that, but they'll reach in and take some money out from time to time for purposes of I want to buy a car, a home improvement project, a vacation. So just kind of reach in and take out some chunks of money from time to time. So what we find is most financial advisors will warn the client that when you take this money out, it's going to be taxable. So we need to account for the taxes, and then they move on. But what they're not being told is the other things that withdrawal affects. So when I go buy a new truck, so take some money out and I got to pay taxes on it. It's going to make my taxable income higher that year. What it also does is it causes my Social Security tax bracket to go up next year, and it also causes my Medicare premiums to go up next year as well. So there's other variables besides just taxes that this affects. All right, things to consider when you are looking at starting Social Security is, are you going to be working full-time or part-time? What's your longevity like? Do you have health history? Do you have family good genetics? What is it that, what's a realistic time frame that you think you can live? Now, of course, we don't know what God's plan is for everybody, but you have to have some kind of reasonable expectations, and you can kind of look at your health today and look at what your family genetics were like for your parents and your grandparents. And then married. Are you married, or have you ever been married? Because that's a big key there as well. I'm not going to spend much time on this page. This page is basically just saying life expectancy. We're living longer. This generation is living longer than the previous generations and so on. We're just eating healthier. We're exercising more. Genetics, we're living longer. So the purposes of stretching out the Social Security, meaning we want the best option available so it lasts a long time. And we want to make sure that we're making the most amount of money out of Social Security in our lifetime. So our life expectancy has been increasing. Now, this is not a Medicare training session here. This is on Social Security, but there's two things I want to kind of talk about when it comes to Medicare as it relates to Social Security. On this whole page, I know there's a lot of numbers. Really what I want you to focus on is that number down there on the bottom. That is the average increase from 2012 to 2020 of your Medicare premiums. So Medicare is our health insurance when we turn 65 and older for the rest of our life. And that's actually a pretty good health insurance plan, but we still got to pay for it. And there's a premium for it. The Medicare premiums are automatically deducted out of our Social Security check, whether you like it or not. So there's no way around it. Medicare is going to make sure that you don't miss a payment. You don't get behind in payments of some sort. You're always going to have your coverage because the payments are automatically going to be deducted out of your Social Security. However, in Social Security, when you look at your Social Security statement, it doesn't tell you about taxes and it doesn't tell you about Medicare premiums coming out of it. It's telling you best case scenario without any deductions. So just know that your income is always going to be lower than your statement shows because we have to factor in taxes and we have to factor in Medicare premiums. So the reason why I bring this up is the average pay increase on Social Security for like the rest of our life, the average pay increase is about 1.6%. So there is years you can go 0, 0, 0 and not have an increase at all in Social Security. Then all of a sudden there'll be 1 year where it increases 4%. But the long-term average of Social Security is about 1.6% that it increases. However, looking at this page here, our Medicare premiums, the cost of our insurance is going up over 6% a year. So our pay raises on Social Security is going up at 1.6, but our Medicare premiums is going up at 6.39. That's a big increase. The other thing to know on Medicare is that Medicare is strictly based on one thing. What's the difference between your cost of your Medicare premiums versus my cost of Medicare premiums? Has nothing to do with pre-existing conditions, health status, male, female, smoker, non-smoker. No, it's all based on your income level. And if you have a lower income, then you can be paying as little as $144 per month per person for your Medicare premiums. And if you are blessed in retirement to have a higher income, then you will be blessed to pay higher premiums. So that's strictly based on your income level. So let me read this to you here out of the Social Security's website. And I'm not going to read all this here to you, but I'll kind of give you an idea here. Social Security Administration, Social Security Basic Facts, April 2014, www.ssa.gov off their website. I'm going to read you the part here in the yellow. The Social Security Office is well staffed with very trained and knowledgeable employees. The staff answers questions accurately. Pretty nice of them to say that about themselves. However, they're instructed not to give advice. Their job is not to advise, but to answer questions. Right there in two sentences back to back, it's telling you the same thing. However, they are instructed not to give advice. Their job is not to advise, but to answer questions. The reason why is because there's 567 strategies or options, whatever you want to call them, with Social Security. There's a lot of options. They don't have time to sit down and analyze all of that for every person that comes in the door. Besides, Social Security, there is so many more variables. You're working full-time or part-time, your spouse working full-time or part-time. Other resources you have like a pension, investment income, IRA withdrawals, rental properties. There's all kinds of things that people can have as income sources, that those other sources will also impact what you choose to do with your Social Security. So they can't advise us on that. I have folks all the time that come to me and they'll ask me questions and they tell me, well, I went to Social Security and this is what they told me. And I'm like, well, they told you wrong. And not really, I'm not trying to say that the Social Security person told them wrong. It's you probably didn't ask the question the way that you're thinking it means. So what you just asked me and what they heard might be two different things. Okay. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to go deeper and deeper and deeper, peeling that onion back to ask you lots of questions to give you advice. And I think the primary reason behind that is the Social Security, let's just call it the home office of Social Security, is going to make sure that all of their Social Security clerks throughout the United States, as they help all the retirees going into retirement, collecting their Social Security, they're just going to make sure that nobody can come back and sue the Social Security Administration for giving bad advice. It's always going to default that if you didn't select the right option, you didn't do the right thing, it's your fault for not asking the right questions. I mean, I think that's basically kind of the default of this, because they're basically saying right here on their website, they're not to give advice. Their job is not to give advice, but to answer questions. So you have to be armed to know with what questions to ask when you go in. Well, if I can make your life a whole lot better and just have you walk into the Social Security Administration office to sign up for your Social Security and you have this report right here and say, oh, I'm ready to sign up for my Social Security. Here's my report. This is what I'm expecting to get. Boom. It'll make your life a whole lot better. So I'll say this now. I'll probably say it a little bit later. If anybody wants a Social Security analysis for yourself, or you want to share this video with other people on Facebook, things like that, feel free to do so. But anybody that wants a Social Security analysis like this, they just need to circle back and contact us. And you can contact us through our Facebook page on Community Cafe. What we'll do is we'll reroute that through our office system so that we can have that through our email, and that way compliance can view the communications and that kind of stuff. But you can at least reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in a Social Security analysis. Can you help me with this information? We have to call you. We have to get information from you first before we can create the analysis, but it's very easy. It doesn't take a lot of information, but we can do that for you, and we're happy to do that. All right, so moving on. Here's something interesting with this. All right, so people out there in America right now collecting Social Security, 28% of them are collecting full benefits. Full benefits means you and I waited until full retirement age. So let's just say, for the purpose of this presentation here today, full retirement age, FRA, is, let's call it 66. Depending on your age, depending on when you were born, your full retirement age might be 65. It might be 65 in so many months, 66 in so many months. I'm upper 67s because of my age. But 28% of Americans here collected Social Security at full retirement age or later, meaning they waited until 66, 67, 68, 69, or 70 to collect Social Security. However, 72% of Americans that are on Social Security right now opted for a reduced amount, meaning they started early, the keyword early. And that means they started like at 65, 64, 63, 62. For whatever reason, they didn't wait. They didn't want to wait. They couldn't wait. They needed the money. They wanted the money. Doesn't matter. They started at a younger age. And the younger we start, the less we get. So the earlier in life we start, and I'm going to show you a chart here in just a minute, but the earlier in life we start, it's less, less, less. And the longer we wait, it's more, more, more. So 72% of Americans willingly signed up for a reduced amount, and it's reduced for the rest of their life. Now, I'm not trying to say that starting early is bad, and I'm not trying to say starting later is good. Everybody's situation is unique, and knowing that there's 567 variables, and then for us to coordinate Social Security with what you do with your other assets, your other sources like your IRAs, your 401ks, your stocks, bonds, your mutual funds, your annuities, your part-time job, full-time job, your timetable for you and your spouse's retirement, All these variables that go into it, we want to coordinate Social Security to maximize all of that. And that stuff can maximize my Social Security and do so in a way that I'm also reducing my taxes. This is what your Social Security statement looks like. We all get them in the mail. There was a period of time where Social Security thought we're going to start to save money. We're not going to mail out the statements anymore. They're going to email them. But I really think that only lasted for about 3 years, and there was a lot of problems with that. So they just went back to paper statements, and they've been doing paper statements in the mail for many, many years now. And everybody gets it in the mail. I have people all the time tell me, well, Mark, I don't get it. I don't ever get it. Well, it's probably because you're getting it. You don't realize that it looks like junk mail. So open it up, but this is what it would look like. It's white with green lettering on it. And for those of you who got it, who get them and you see them, this is typically what your eyes tend to go towards right here. On this report, this is really what you're looking at. When I'm 62, I'm expecting to get $1,059 a month. My primary insurance amount, PIA, that's full retirement age, I'm expecting to get 1680. So if I delay it a little bit, I get a little bit more. If I wait until 70, I get 2,094. So every year that I've delayed, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's typically what our eyes focus on. However, what I want your eyes to focus on is this. Social Security looks at your best 35 years of working, with your paychecks and what you contribute to Social Security. They're looking at your best 35 years, not your last 35 years. That's a key because there are some people who kind of go into a cruise control mode in retirement. They work less and less and less. They make less money. They kind of phase themselves in retirement time, or they retire. They kind of go back to work doing something else with less income. If it's a less income, it's not going to matter. Social Security is looking at your best 35 years. The other key on that is you can only go back 3 years. So I'm just going to use this report and I'm going to highlight. Let's just use purple here. Let's go back to 2012 here. That kind of is a little darker than what I want. Let's see if I can clean that up. There we go. In 2012, let's say this is my report here, for example. In 2012, it says my earnings that year, I made $45,718. Well, wait a second, that's not right. I made $54,000 that year, not $45,000. So somewhere between my company, my HR department, my payroll services company of my company, up to the Social Security Administration, the people that data entry this stuff into the system, somebody had a typo somewhere. You get 3 years to fix a mistake. So when you get your statements, go back and look at last year's earnings. Does that look right? Because if it's not, you can fix it. You just take a copy of your tax return, show it to Social Security, and they can get that fixed. Because there was just probably a typo someplace. But in this example, it's 2020 right now, and I'm using this example. It goes back to 2012 here. I can't fix that because it's more than 3 years ago. So really, it's you can't worry about it if it's over 3 years. I just want you to look at this every year and not just focus on this part over here. I want you to also look at this part, and I want you to look at the last 3 years every time and make sure that that number looks right to you. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite slides. I'm going to ask you to try to burn this one into your brain a little bit. You don't need to know all of it. I just want you to kind of at least memorize the shape of it for the most part. So here's how it works. At 66, we're going to call that full retirement age. Now, full retirement age isn't when I get my full amount. No, because 67 is more, 68 is more, 69 is more, age 70 is more. So it's a little bit more full if you wait past 66, if you want to call it that. 66 is basically when I can collect my Social Security, and if I still have a job, my job doesn't penalize me. Okay, because if you start Social Security at 65, 64, 63, or 62 at a younger age, you start early, but you're still working. If your income's too high, now your job's paychecks will start to penalize your Social Security paychecks because it's a penalty to say you shouldn't have started just yet. Your income's too high, you should have delayed it and pushed it off. So full retirement age has nothing to do with the size of your Social Security check. It has everything to do with whether or not you're working your job and it's going to penalize it or not. So at age 66, take a look at this. At age 65, it's 7% less. So if I start at 65, I'm going to collect 7% less this year and every year for the rest of my life compared to if I would have waited until 66. At 64, it's 13% less. At 63, it's 20% less. At 62, it's 25% less. I want you to burn that number in your brain, 25% less. If I start at 62, because that's the earliest I can start it, I'm going to get 25% less for the rest of my life. Okay, we're going to talk about Social Security two ways: individual benefits and spouse benefits. This is individual benefits. So I'm talking about me collecting off of me or you collecting off of you. If I start at 62, you get 25% less. However, if I delay it, it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. It gets 8% more, 8% more, 8% more, 8% more. Those last 4 years, it's guaranteed to go up 8% a year, which is 32% in the long run. I want you to memorize this scale because the longer we live, the longer we delay taking Social Security, the more we get. So the question is, why, if we start Social Security at 62, are we getting less than if we wait until 70 and we'll get more? Well, it's life expectancy. That's really all it boils down to. If I live to 70 and I collect Social Security starting at 70, yes, I'm going to get the biggest check possible. Here's the question. You want to know how to get the biggest check out of Social Security? Wait until 70. That's simple. But the problem is you're not guaranteed to collect the most amount of money out of Social Security. So remember, the key here is your goal is not to get the biggest check out of Social Security. Your goal is to collect the most amount of money out of Social Security in your lifetime. So if I wait until 70, but then let's say you die at 75, yes, you got the biggest check, but you only got 5 years worth of it. However, you would have started Social Security earlier, let's say all the way down to 62, you would have got a smaller check, but you would have gotten more checks, therefore you would have gotten more money. And again, I know we don't know God's plan for when we're going to die. I get that, but we can use some reasonable assumptions what your life expectancy might be like for your current health condition, as well as your family genetics. So I just want you to kind of memorize this scale, because I'm going to show you a scale like this in a minute when I talk about spouse benefits, full retirement age and it being reduced, and that kind of stuff. It goes up every year from 62 to 70. It's as little as 25% reduced, and those last 4 years is 8%, 8%, 8%, 8%. So kind of have that burned in your brain a little bit. So full retirement age here. So full retirement age, we're going to call that 66 for today. Now everybody's full retirement age might be slightly different. So what that means is my Social Security is going to get penalized. If I'm under full retirement age, here's my income. So let's say I'm under full retirement age 66. I'm 65, or I'm 64, I'm 63, I'm 62, I'm something like that. I'm still working, I got a job, and I've opted in to start my Social Security. If my job's paychecks, if I make over $18,240 a year, I'm losing $1 of Social Security for every $2 I earn over the $18,240. So let's say I'm still working, I'm 64 years old, hypothetically, I'm still working, and I make $28,000 a year. All right, $28,000 a year means I'm basically $10,000 over the limit, which means my Social Security is going to be reduced by $5,000 the next year. So it's reduced $1 for every $2 I earn over the limit. The year I turn full retirement age, so like I'm 65 now, but my birthday's a little bit later in the year, so part of the year I'm 65, I'm going to be having my job. Part of the year, let's say at 66, I plan to retire, I'm not going to have my job. So they give us a bigger buffer. So instead of 18,240, it's a bigger window here at 48,600. Then if your income's over that amount, then it's reduced $1 for every $3 I earn over the 48,600. But once I get to full retirement age, now I'm 66, I'm 67, 68, 69, 70. I'm in my Social Security and I'm still working. No limits, no penalties. So I can be 67 years old, still work. I can make $10,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, and my Social Security will not get penalized. It's going to get taxed, but it won't get penalized. And full retirement age is about you having a job and potentially penalizing your Social Security. So there's a lot of times we work with retirees who are in their 60s, and we're trying to navigate, okay, if we start Social Security now, then we need to potentially get you to work a little bit less at work. Because if you keep working this much, you're going to make this much money, Social Security is being reduced by the penalty. Well, can I work less hours and get more of my Social Security? I mean, that's the goal. Work less and make more money. Yeah, we can play with that to see where can we make that work best for you. Okay. All right, let's move on. I put this up here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's just I bring this up because a lot of people don't think this exists. I call this what if I change my mind? You know, it's called a change your mind form is what I call it. So you've selected your Social Security, you're living out your life. You come across a presentation like this. You talk to somebody like me. I do a Social Security analysis, that really nice one that does all the examples for you. And you realize, man, I signed up for the wrong option. You know what? You can go right back into Social Security, fill out this form, and change it. If it's a better option and it's better for you, you can go in and change it. So that's what I refer to as my change my mind form. All right, so now let's talk about spouse benefits. We've been talking about individual benefits, me collecting off of me. Now let me talk about, let's say, me collecting off my spouse or my spouse collecting off myself, collecting off me. So this is what we call spouse benefits. All right. And I'm going to start to talk about Jeremy and Samantha. In this first example, let's say Samantha, she didn't work. She was a stay-at-home mom. She raised the family. She raised the kids. She had the tough job of the two of them, of course, and she never contributed to Social Security. So her Social Security is zero. However, Jeremy, he's the one that had the job. And when he retires at age 66, he'll get $2,200. So at full retirement age, when Jeremy wants to collect, he'll get $2,200. However, Samantha, as a spouse currently married to Jeremy, she can start when he starts and she can get $1,100. She can get half of his. So you had one person contributing to Social Security, you got two people collecting off of it. She's entitled to half of his. And it works the same way on a divorce situation. So you've been married to a spouse and you had been married for at least 10 years before you got divorced, that's the key. Been married to them for 10 years before you got divorced, and now you're single, you have the option to choose to collect your own Social Security or to choose taking half of your divorced spouse. Even if that divorce was like a bad divorce, a messy divorce, it doesn't matter. Samantha taking $1,100 off of Jeremy does not affect Jeremy's ability to get $2,200. She gets half of his regardless, and that does not affect Jeremy. So your divorced spouse will never know about this. You're entitled to half that. If that's the right option for you, that's the right benefit for you, you're entitled to it and they'll never know about it. You don't have to get their consent. They're entitled, but you know what? They're also entitled to collect off of you too. If it works better for them, they can do the same thing. So one of the other things that get brought up, well, one person contributed to Social Security, but two people are collecting. So Jeremy's getting $2,200, Samantha's getting $1,100. Together, that's $3,300 a month between the two of them. Well, what happens if one dies? Well, it doesn't matter who dies first. The surviving spouse keeps the bigger check. So the bigger check is Jeremy's. It doesn't matter who lives longer. We drop off the $1,100 check, and the surviving spouse gets the $2,200 for the rest of their life. That's how that works. While we're on spouse benefits, again, here's spouse benefits. Let me show you how this works. At full retirement age is when you can collect a 50%. So if Jeremy's was $2,200 here, then 50% of that means Samantha would be getting $1,100. Okay, she gets 100% of her benefit off of him, which is 50% of it, 50% of his full retirement age. However, if she starts at 65 collecting off him, now that $1,100 is reduced 92%. If she starts at 64, it's reduced 83%, 75%, 70%. So at age 62, we can collect off of our spouse as early as 62. Most of the time, if we collect off our other spouse, that spouse has to be already on Social Security, collecting Social Security for us to select off of them. There are some rules there to apply to people a little bit differently depending on your birth dates. The key birth date is if you're born before January 2nd, 1954 versus people born after January 2nd, 54. There's two sets of rules, and we could talk about that individually. But point is on this is if we were to collect our own individual benefits at 62, you remember how it's reduced by 25%? Well, now, and that's because I'm starting at 62, I'm getting a lesser amount because I started early. But what if I start at 62 and I collect off of somebody else? Now I'm collecting off of somebody else at early age, and I'm collecting off of them. So instead of being reduced by 25%, it's reduced by 30%. So that means Samantha in this case would be getting 30% off of the $1,100. She won't get the full $1,100. She'll get $1,100 minus 30% of that, and that's what she would get. All right, so let's keep going through some examples so I can actually show you some math problem behind this. We're kind of getting close to being done. So Jeremy here, he's gonna collect $2,200 of Social Security. Okay, that's his full retirement amount. PIA means primary insurance amount. He would get $2,200 right here if he was to start there. But he's not. He's going to start at age 62. So since he starts at 62, we collect our own individual benefits. It's reduced by 25%. So $2,200 minus the 25%, he's actually going to get $1,750. He's going to die at 75. Samantha, let's say now we're going to change the example. Samantha did work. She did have a job. She contributed to Social Security. Her own benefits are $600. However, does she want to collect the full $600 or off of Jeremy? If Jeremy collects that, she gets $1,100 here, but over here at 62, it's minus the 30%. So minus that 30%, she's going to get $1,100 or $800. I'm sorry, $800. If you were Samantha, do you want to collect your own benefits and get $600 a month, or do you want to collect spouse benefits off of Jeremy and get $800? We'd rather get the $800. So Jeremy will collect off of Jeremy, and Samantha will collect off of Jeremy. Samantha won't even use her benefits. And if they live out their life, you know, he dies at 75, she dies at 82, just using this example, they're going to collect $550,000 out of Social Security in a lifetime. Now, these slides I'm showing you now in the next couple of slides, they're old slides and they're national US slides. I find people I work with, today's numbers in my city of the Kansas City area, one or both spouses have bigger Social Securities than 2,200 and 600. And if one or both of your numbers are bigger than that, that means this number is going to be considerably bigger as well. But I'm just using these examples here. So let's change it. So now we're going to have Jeremy start at 66, so he'll get the full 2,200. Samantha will start at 66 at the same time. She'll get the full 1,100. We just went from $550,000 to now $580,000 of collection. So wouldn't you say we just went in the right direction? By making that adjustment, instead of 62 starting at 66, they collected to like $30,000 more in their lifetime by doing so. All right, let's change the variable again. So now we're going to have Jeremy start out here at 70. Now if he gets at 70, His 2,200 grows at 8%, 8%, 8%, 8% those last 4 years. His benefit's now 2,904. However, Samantha's benefit stays 1,100. Why? She can't collect off of his until he starts. Well, he's not going to start until 70, so that means she can't start until 70 because they're the same age in this example. And she's entitled to half his full retirement amount. Over here was 2,200, which means she gets 1,100. So just because he starts at 70, she's capped to taking off his at full retirement age. I showed that chart where here, come back over to this, it's reduced in those early years, but once I hit full retirement age for spouse benefits, it's 100%. If I wait till 67, 68, 69, or 70, it doesn't grow anymore. Our own individual benefits start at 62 and grow every year up till 70, but collecting off of a spouse starts at 62 and grows to 66, stops growing at 66. So that's why I kind of come back to this and say, in this example here, we look at these numbers. Now, if we have them start at 70 and they collect 1,100 and 2,904, still dying at 82 and still dying at 75, we went from 550,000 of benefit to 580,000 of benefit to 532,000. We just went the wrong direction. So can we agree that that's not the right option? All right, home stretch here. So let's look at this. Now we're going to, again, have him die at 75, have her die at 82, still the same scenario. We're going to have Jeremy start at 66, which means he's going to get the full $2,200 benefit. But Samantha here, she's going to start to do some strategies with us, and we're going to have her starting at 62, collecting her full benefits. Now remember over here, her benefit was $600. It's $600 to her at age 66, but if she starts her own benefits at 62, it's 25% off. Well, 25% off, 600 is 450. So she's got 450, 450, 450, 450, basically from age 62 to 66. And then once her husband, Jeremy, goes in and he signs up for his Social Security, she's now going to switch over to start taking spouse benefits. And she's going to stop taking 450 every month, and she's going to start switching over, taking 1,100 a month. So she started from 62 to 66, collecting her own individual benefits. It's reduced because she started at 62. And then at 66 for the rest of her life, she'll be collecting half of Jeremy's amount for the rest of her life. And so he'll be living on 2,200. She'll live on 1,100 for the rest of her life. We went from 550 to 580 to 532 to now 584,000. So would you agree right there, by incorporating some strategies, that was the better scenario, and that's how we're going to collect more money out of Social Security. But here's kind of the key. I've been showing you these examples with him dying at 75 and her dying at 82. Each one of these examples have all been the same thing. If this is the best example so far, let's use this example, but let's change the date of death, just so you have an example to see how it works. So keep in mind this 584,000. So now the same thing here is, now it jumps to 962,000 because we'd have him, instead of dying at 75, he's going to die at 85. Her, instead of dying at 82, it's 92. If they live 10 years longer, look at how much more money they get. It's almost $400,000 more out of Social Security by incorporating the same strategies. Him starting at 66, collecting 2,200. Her starting at 62, own individual benefits for 450, and then switching at 66, stopping taking hers, starting to take off of his, getting the 1,100 here. And then the end result is, because they lived a little bit longer here, they collected a lot more money. So we don't know God's plan of how long we're going to live, but what we do know is that by selecting the right options, the longer we live, it becomes a magnifier effect of collecting more and collecting more and collecting more out of Social Security. Out of all this I'm trying to tell you on Social Security, there's only one software I've ever seen that does all these things, and that's this software here. There's only a couple people that I even know that have access to this software, and I'm sure there might be others. I just don't know them. As far as I know, I'm the only one in the Kansas City area that has access to this stuff. So if you are interested and you want this report, don't hesitate to reach out to us through Facebook. Let us know. We'll contact you, and we'll go through our proper channels so we can have everything being monitored by compliance, and we can ask you our questions and do that sort of stuff. So again, here is what a copy of what that report looks like. It's going to take into account spouse information, or let's say wife's information, husband's information. You know, when does one start? When does the other one start? When does the other one do a switcheroo? And come up with all the examples down here as to what's the total amount of money collected in your lifetime. So we need to know your name, your spouse's name, or your ex-spouse's name. I need to know what your Social Security benefits are off your Social Security statement. I want to be clear, I don't need your Social Security number. That's private, I don't need that. But I needed some information off your Social Security statement that shows me these numbers to be able to do this for you. You need to know your date of birth for you and your ex-spouse or your current spouse. There's also widow's benefits. So if you're wanting to go into retirement and collect on Social Security, but your previous spouse had passed away, there's options for you there. you got divorced and then that divorced spouse passed away. There's options for you there. There's a lot of things that we can do that make the 567 options a big deal for you. So guys, that's what I had. I talked really fast. I went a little bit longer than my usual 30 minutes. I had a little snafu in the beginning when it comes to trying to get my buttons to work on here. Quick reminder, do me a favor, if this presentation was good for you, click share on Facebook so you can share it with friends and you can just share it with all your loved ones in your life. Next week, Chris Tillman with First Option Bank is going to talk about how the coronavirus has affected the banking world, specifically around mortgages, refinances, just the banking and lending industry itself. How has coronavirus affected them and how do they see things maybe affecting the banks down the road? And then 2 weeks from today, I'm going to be back on myself and I'm going to have Jolynn Tarantino with me. I think she's a rock star realtor. I've done a lot of business with her myself and I referred her to tons of clients. One of the best realtors I've ever come across, and she's just an amazing person. And she's going to talk about how coronavirus has affected the real estate market in Kansas City. So if you're a buyer, you're a seller, you're thinking of becoming a buyer, you're thinking of becoming a seller, she's going to talk about how these things are impacting things right now. So that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks. Again, share us with your friends and family. Don't forget to go out if you want to Facebook, to our Facebook page. It's called Community Cafe. You just click like there and you can follow us and get our updates. So when we do a video, you can get that. Most people watch this later throughout the day as it pops up in their newsfeed, so good for you. On that, guys, thank you so much for joining here today. Thanks for taking 35 minutes out of your day to learn a little bit on Social Security. You guys take care and everybody be safe and healthy.